Blackbaud. I'm excited for this next session. It's a pro code session with our partners at Golden. We have Rob and Johann from Golden here to lead us through a session on building across multiple Sky APIs. Rob, Johann, I will help you monitor the chat. I'll come back on camera as you're wrapping up your session and help you manage questions, Q&A from the chat. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get out of your way and let you take it away.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. We're going to speak to you a little bit about our journey with the Sky APIs and integrating with Blackbaud Raiser'sEdge NXT, CRM, and Altru. Our agenda for the next 20 minutes, I will introduce myself and the Golden product, give you a little bit of information about us, and then talk to you about our Raiser'sNXT integration, which was the first integration we did with Blackbaud and our first introduction to the Sky API. I'll then talk a little bit about the newer APIs for Blackbaud CRM and Altru and what we did with those. Talk a little bit about our future plans for our integrations and expanded use of the Sky API, and then we'll open it up to questions. My name is Rob Petit. I'm the head of engineering at Golden. I work on most of our products, but I am primarily responsible for our integrations with various CRMs. I also work some on our mobile applications. Also in the theater with me is Johann, our Chief Operating Officer. He is also involved in our business development and partner programs. Golden is a premier platform for organizers to manage their volunteering and for volunteers to find interesting and exciting volunteer opportunities. We offer a web dashboard to organizers for them to simply create volunteer opportunities, make them available to their volunteers, and track how the opportunities are going and how their organization is doing in general regarding volunteering. We also have a web portal and mobile applications, which allow volunteers to easily search for and find volunteer opportunities that are interesting to them. Finally, we have a kiosk, which makes it easier for organizers to automate check-in and check-out of volunteers at their various opportunities. Golden has received many awards over the years from various sources. We're very proud of the recognition we have gotten from the community, and we're very proud of the work we've done to help organizations and volunteers find their passion, find their golden moments. If you're interested in learning more about Golden in general, we're in Expo 2, and our CEO, Sam, will be doing a presentation and a demo later today at 4:15 East in, I believe it's Theater 5. So the goals of any of our integrations from Golden is primarily to get the interaction your volunteer has with your organization, reflect that in your CRM of choice. So when we started with the Raiser'sNXT integration, of course, that was our first goal. We wanted to make sure that if a volunteer interacted with your organization in Golden, that volunteer was then reflected in your Raiser'sNXT organization, where you could further communicate and develop that relationship with your volunteer. Studies have shown volunteers become very good donors because they understand what's going on in your organization. And so having those volunteers reflected in the CRM is a useful thing. There are 4 primary pieces of data that we move through most integrations. Obviously, the volunteer, who the volunteer is, how to contact the volunteer, other information about the volunteer. What we call the opportunity is the volunteer opportunity, the event or the thing that the volunteer is doing. We have an object called time slots, which represents the shift or the day and time on which a particular opportunity occurs. And then we have a registration object, which represents the state of the volunteer's interaction with that opportunity. So they're registered for a future opportunity, or they've completed a past opportunity and did 2.5 hours of work for that opportunity. This is a volunteer in the Golden dashboard. This is the view an organizer would have of the volunteer in that volunteer's data. And this is a sample of a volunteer opportunity. This happens to be one I created, so it has an unrelated image of a beautiful German Shepherd. When we create these integrations, we need to look at the CRM and what kind of data the CRM can represent and what kind of data we're sending, and figure out what we want to do with that data. Because we're using an API to interface with the CRM, that API is our lens into the CRM. So we have to look at the API, what data is available in the API, and then how we represent our data using those endpoints. So we did this with Raiser'sEdge and the Sky API, and these are the endpoints we primarily use to send data to Raiser'sEdge. Obviously, we send volunteers as constituents, so we use the constituent API, including the search features of the constituent API. We individually use the endpoints for various contact information, which gives us a little finer grained control of creating and searching for existing contact information. In Raiser'sEdge, we use events to represent the volunteer opportunities and their time slots, because that's what's available through the API. And we use the event participant to connect the constituent to a particular opportunity and time slot. There were some considerations when we started this integration. One of the first is, how do we identify objects that we create within the CRM? In the case of the constituent, we use the alias of the feature of the constituent to add our unique identifier to a constituent. That way, we can then go find that constituent the next time and not have to recreate it or go search on other less precise terms. For other objects, such as the event and the participation, we just take the Blackbaud identifier after we create it and we store it in our database. The reason we do things this way is because the constituent can be merged. The constituent, sometimes environments get multiple copies of the same constituent. The organization may do a merge. The alias can travel with that merge, so we can then go find the new constituent that's representing our volunteer. With things like the event and the participant, since we're creating them, we're not typically using existing ones. If we store the ID, they're not likely to go away, so we can directly access them through the API ID for that object.
This is Johann. We had a question from James come through. James was asking, do you not use the volunteer module in NXT because it's not available through an API?
Right. It is not exposed through the Sky API right now, so we did not, while that data exists at the database level in NXT, it's not exposed through the API, so we couldn't use the volunteer module. So additionally, we had to decide, okay, how do we go find constituents? As I said, we use an alias. So if we created a constituent, we assign our ID to it. We can go find it. If we don't find one that we've already interacted with, we search on email address or email address and name. That's a configurable parameter in our integration that the organization can select. And then if we don't find a constituent that matches any of that, we go and create a constituent. Additionally, when we create contact information, we have to apply a contact type, a phone type, an email type, mailing address type to the contact information. We allow the organization to select which of their existing types they want us to apply. That's part of the initial configuration of the integration, and we use those. We apply those when we send the contact data to the CRM. So here's a quick example on the left of a constituent that was created when a volunteer registered for an opportunity, the opportunity I showed you in golden earlier. And on the right is the participant information for that same volunteer. The connection to the integration happens roughly real time. So when a volunteer registers, shortly thereafter, it will appear in Raiser'sEdge NXT. We don't batch things and send them overnight or anything like that. We pretty much send them live when the registrations occur. So last fall, Blackbaud opened up the Sky API to BBCRM and the Altru environments, and we were lucky enough to participate in the early exposure to that. So we got to build an integration with both CRM and Altru. The goal was the same: get volunteer interactions from Golden into the CRM. So we started with the same flow that the Raiser'sNXT integration used and followed that flow. We actually were able to reuse the authentication process when setting up the integration because it's authenticating, it's common to the Sky API, the auth process. So the same auth process works for Raiser'sNXT, CRM, or Altru. Some of the APIs are a little different, some of the APIs are similar, but we then looked at the Sky API endpoints we had available, and similar to Raiser'sNXT, decided how we were going to represent our data and what the flow was going to look like. Both CRM and Altru have the concept of a constituent, and the APIs are fairly similar. So we were able to follow a similar pattern to Raiser'sNXT, creating individuals within CRM, adding contact information such as phone, mailing address. We do the same type of configuration where we allow the organization to select whether they want to do email or email and name as a way of deduplicating. We allow them to select types for the contact information when they set up the integration. There's a little bit of a difference in terms of identifying the constituents. We use the alternate lookup ID in the CRM and Altru APIs as opposed to an alias. But it serves the same purpose. It's a way for us to directly identify a constituent as being a particular volunteer in the Golden system. Here in the CRM and Altru APIs within Sky, Blackbaud did expose the volunteer module. So we were able to access the volunteer, the job occurrence, and related endpoints there. So when we create an opportunity in CRM or Altru, we create a job instead of creating an event. The job's the more appropriate data object, so we departed from our Raiser'sNXT integration and instead used job. We use job occurrence to reflect our time slot. We use volunteer assignments to reflect a registered state. And we use the timesheets to reflect a completed opportunity and log volunteer hours. So here you see a similar set of data to what we showed in Raiser'sEdge. On the left is the constituent that got created through the integration when the volunteer registered. And on the right, you can see some of their volunteer information. Because we use the volunteer object, we can append information like volunteer-related information like the emergency contact. So we are always looking to expand our integrations and improve how we work with our partner CRMs. So we're always looking at other API endpoints and other parts of the developer interface that we can use to improve the organization's use of our product and the CRM. One of the ways we're looking to improve our integration is with groups. In Golden, groups are used to stratify volunteers for a variety of reasons. In some cases, it's to segment them for reporting purposes. In many cases, it's to segment them to control access to volunteer opportunities. For example, you may have a criteria that a volunteer must meet before they can participate in a particular volunteer opportunity. One of the ways you can do that in Golden is to create a group, add the volunteer to the group, and then target an opportunity to that group. Currently, we don't reflect group membership within Raiser'sEdge CRM or Altru, but we are looking to improve that. So we may use the list API or the new list v2 APIs to create lists within Raiser'sEdge to reflect group membership and groups that get created within Golden. We haven't quite determined the best way to reflect that same information within CRM and Altru. One possibility is using marketing segments and the marketing segments API. Another place we want to add more data is we do collect additional data when volunteers register. There's a whole wide range of information that an organization can collect during registration, some of which does not match the standard properties of a constituent. We want to start adding that to the constituent when we create them within the various CRMs. So we're looking at using endpoints like the custom field endpoints or the attributes endpoints to add that additional data to the constituents. Finally, we've gotten several requests for making this a two-way integration where an organization can take existing volunteer data that they have within the CRM and reflect that in Golden, especially where there's information within the CRM that may help with automatically creating groups within the Golden environment. So we are looking into how best to do that within Raiser'sEdge CRM and Altru. Some Sky UI elements will probably be added to allow you to select constituents and select the groups you want to add them to and send them to Raiser'sEdge. As the Sky UI components evolve for CRM and Altru, we'll also look at that. We currently do use one piece of Sky UI. We do create a small Sky Golden tile within the home screen, the event screen, and the constituent screen in Raiser'sEdge to show aggregated hours and value of those hours for the particular objects within Raiser'sEdge. So that's all I had. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, we can answer those now. Again, if you're interested in more information or you want to talk more about our integrations, I'll be in Expo 2 for a little while. And we do have another presentation with our demo of Golden at 4:15 in Theater 5.
We have a few more minutes. Thank you, Rob and Johann, for a great presentation. You packed a lot into 20 minutes or so. I'm curious if there are questions from the audience. Go ahead and put them in the chat. And before you leave, I'm dropping the link to the session survey in the chat. Please do take a few minutes to rate this session. Would love for folks to do that after every session and give feedback to our presenters. Want to get some presenters to BBCon, so it's how we do it. Okay, I guess your presentation was so thorough that we don't have any questions at all in the chat. So thank you again, Rob and Johann, for a great presentation. And thanks, folks, for attending. Hope you're having a great final day of BB Dev Days.
Thank you all.